Good morning, everyone. How you doing? How you doing this fine day? Hope you're all fit and well. I don't know what goes on with this thing. I leave this system in a certain state with the sound at a certain level, with my camera set to a certain level. Come back the following morning, it's all changed. I don't know. I don't know. Yes, I've got the Peaky Blinders hat on today. I'm feeling that way. Ken Hatter has just joined us. Morning, Ken. Let me press your button, sir. How are you doing this morning? Um, the weather doesn't look too bad. Bit of rain later in the day, maybe, but yeah, not too bad. Um, who else we got here? Mark Whiting is here. There he is. Dan Cullen was here early doors. There we are. That was at 7:03. Good morning to you, Dan. Good morning to everybody else. Good morning to Emilio Ascanio over on Instagram as well. Anyone watching the news last night would have seen there was. I've not checked it this morning, so I don't actually know the outcome. I probably should have done that before I came on here. But there was a plane crash at Louisville Airport in America. I was there a month ago. I flew into it and I flew out of it again as well. Apparently, it's the biggest UPS hub in the world. It is their world hub. Apparently, they handle ridiculous number of packages. I think it was 400,000 packages per hour. I'm sure I read that right. Oh, it may have been 40,000, but I thought it was 400,000. But yeah, there was a plane crash there last night. It was a UPS plane that crashed, caught fire on the runway. Don't know what the outcome is. I haven't checked back this morning. But yes, as I say, it kind of hit home because I was there just a few weeks ago. And when I was actually watching a live stream last night where they were talking about it, and some of the places they were naming about, potentially impacted, they put a cordon around it, a 5 mile cordon around Muhammad Ali Airport. And that 5 mile cordon would have included me. If I'd have been there, right, would have included me. It basically went from the airport down to the Ohio River. Yeah. If you saw any of my footage from the exhibition, the Utility Expo, we were staying right by the Ohio River, so we were basically halfway between the two, between the airport and that river. So yeah, hope all is well over there. It did not look good, I have to say, but hopefully things will be sorting themselves out. Chris Ford has arrived. Morning, Chris. Ken Hatcher says, "Oh yes, Big Jet TV, been there. It's massive. It was a hell of a fire from fuel." Yeah, unfortunately, apparently the plane, according to the live stream I was watching, the plane took off bound for Honolulu, which is quite a long way from Ohio. So I would imagine it was pretty well full of aviation fuel, which burns like a bastard. So yes, Andy Darville saying, like the flat cap and shirt, very dapper. I don't know. It's not. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything today. I just woke up and thought, I'll go for something a little bit different today. And there is Andy Darville giving us his traditional morning welcome. Morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I've got a stack to get through today. There is no question of the day. There is no giveaway today, but we do have a bit of a discussion point, which I will be doing in the news. So I tell you what, why don't we, without further ado, roll the intro and get this show on the road? Like. Yeah, going back to that crash last night in Louisville, Ken Hatter has just said, unfortunately, I can't see anyone surviving it. The initial reports, and again, I've not checked back. I should have done. Apparently, the initial reports were there would have been 3 crew on that aircraft. My guess is, unfortunately, they have all perished. It's what happened after that, because it did seem to be heading towards a road. And again, listening to the feed last night, they were talking about the road being on fire. So hoping that it didn't affect those either in cars on the road or in neighbouring buildings. I'm sure it'll all come out in the wash at some point. Andy Thornton, loving the Peaky Blinders look. In actual fact, I can tell you that this hat actually comes from there. That is actually the company, oddly enough, that supplies the costumes for Peaky Blinders. It's the real deal. It was a gift from Adrian McLean, the incumbent president at the Institute of Demolition Engineers. Very kind of him, and I think it looks pretty damn dapper as well. The shirt, maybe not so much. Jim Turner is here as well. Good morning to you, Jim. It is Wednesday, the 5th of November. Yeah, remember, the 5th of November. Um, I can't remember the rest of it. I've watched V for Vendetta hundreds of times, but I can't remember the rest of it. Gunpowder, Treason and Plot, or something like that. I it'll come to me. Yes, it is Wednesday, the 5th of November. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of LiveStream. And in today's show, Caterpillar, the next 100 years. Komatsu gets its teeth into the industry. We're climbing all aboard the Blade Runner. I'm fairly sure it was Andy Darvell was talking either late last week or early this week, talking about the Blade Runner from Kobelco. I thought I'd dig out a video. So I have. And we're also spotting a bit of Demolition Canadian style. Yeah, we're going over to see what Priestley is all about. And in today's morning monologue, a tragedy in slow motion. Yeah. Chris Ford, Gunpowder Plot, a failed demolition job. Yes, it was indeed. It was indeed. Wonder how the world might have looked had Guy and the lads got away with it. I wonder. Anyone watched the film V for Vendetta? One of my personal favourites. It's one of those that I watch every once in a while. Just go back and check on it. It really is very, very good if you're into that kind of thing. Anyway, it is time for our news section, and boy, do I have some news for you. It's not good news, but I'll tell you in a second. Andy Darvell saying about last night's plane crash. It was a McDonnell Douglas MD-11F triple engine aircraft with an engine in the tail. The port engine can be seen in the photos on the runway as the plane tries to take off with two engines. Not good. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly one of the clips that I saw, it was actually on fire as it was heading down the runway. So not good at all. And Jim Turner as well. He'd love to have a go on the Blade Runner. Well, stick around. I think it's probably our second or third video of today. Stick around and you can do it from a distance. Dan saying busy at the moment, can't interact. I know the feeling. I will play the news section in just a moment, but I will tell you, I have committed myself to far too much work, and I'll tell you how bad it is. I'm writing two different publications at the moment, and I'm so deep into them that last night I was writing one within the document for the other. Yeah, it's all a bit much. Yeah, it was me with the Blade Runner, proper machine. We'll get to that in a moment. And apparently that's an old plane. I don't know the first thing about planes, but we'll come to all that. Did I play the news thing? I don't think I did. Let's do that, and then I'll tell you what we've got, what I'm cheesed off about today. So we have this from the Construction Index today. Apparently, as a nation, and when I say as a nation, I mean as a government, I didn't agree to this. I'm pretty damn sure you didn't agree to this. A National Audit Office report reveals that the government has written off £2.7 billion over the past 2 years on cancelled transport projects. Since 2023, several of the Department of Transport's major projects have been cancelled due to affordability pressures and changes in government priorities. These write-offs include money that has been spent designing and starting to deliver activity that has now been stopped, and the reduction in the value of assets. Now, these include HS2 Phase 2, which is 2.1 billion. Just to be clear, when I'm talking billions, that's 9 zeros. We're not talking about 6, which would be bad. We're talking about the full 9 zeros. All lane running smart motorways, they've been shelved at the cost of 62 million. The A303 Amesbury to Berwick Down, that's the Stonehenge tunnel. That's been canned and cost 224 million. The A1 Morpeth to Ellingham Dueling, that's 68 million. A27 Arundel Bypass, which I know from personal experience we could do with, 67 million down the Swanee. A358 Taunton to Southfields, 67 million quid down the Swanee. So we've spent basically we have squandered 2.7 billion, and our roads are still crap. Our railways are still crap. and we don't have the roads and the railways that we thought we were paying for. Now, I realise there's a stark difference between what the government does and what happens in the real world. But if you, as a private individual or a private company, were to run up 2.7 billion quid, rather, not dollars, 2.7 billion pounds, and have absolutely nothing to show for it, do you think you'd still have a job? Now, I will point out, not that I have any leanings in either direction. I think politicians, by and large, are a waste of bleeding time. But 2.1 billion of that was Mr. Sunak. But that doesn't leave Keir Starmer and his cohorts scot-free. They've cancelled stuff as well. 2.7 billion, basically, I'm trying to think of the technical term. And the technical term where I come from is pissed up the wall with absolutely nothing to show for it. Uh, and then when the budget rolls around, oh, well, the cost of your shopping, the cost of your car, the cost of your cigarettes, the cost of your booze, the cost of everything will go up, while they have spunked. That's the word I'm looking for, spunked. 2.7 billion quid. And at the same time, they'll tell you, "Oh, yeah, well, we're gonna have to cut back on keeping old people warm during the winter." Gotta love them, haven't you? Gotta love them. What do we got going on over in the chat here? Uh, Andy Dovell would love a stint on a Cabelco Blade Runner. Now, LC International, I do owe you guys a thank you. It is actually Dan. Dan, I'm sure you're aware because you organised it. But your colleagues actually sent us through a T-shirt and a couple of notepads and some key rings. Still got one of the key rings on my desk, actually. There we are. Make it make sense. There we are. That's gave them away yesterday and went like a storm. So thank you for that, Dan. I know you were personally responsible for that. Dan is saying, liking the Peaky Blinders cap. Thank you very much. Yeah, listen, it's I don't particularly like the cold weather. I don't like the weather, but I do like the clothing that goes with the weather. I'm a big hat, coat, and scarf kind of guy. I kind of live in this weird hinterland where I believe that come beginning of December, me and my good lady wife should be strolling around the West End, or better still, strolling around in New York, collars pulled up, scarves on, snow, choir boys singing Christmas carols. None of that ever happens, but Ken Hatcher saying huge money, yeah, 2.7 billion quid pissed up the wall. And the country's gold, they sold it years ago. Yeah. Wish you hadn't said you were snowed under with work. I've just tagged you in a post with someone needing a charity favour that you or Fred might be able to do. Oops. I'll take a look. I'll take a look for you. Jim, not a problem at all. Ken Hatcher, it's a joke. I agree. But obviously, I'm glad you have plenty of work. Well, so am I. You see, I'm sure you guys have exactly the same thing, particularly those of you that are self-employed. You kind of you have a bit of a lull in work. Now, coming off the back end of the summer holidays, I always have a lull because, people go away and they're not doing the advertising and the marketing and stuff like that. So there's a bit of a lull. So you go out and you put yourself about and you remind people just how good you are at your job, and then some work starts to roll in. And then a bit more rolls in. And then a bit, and you find yourself by the end of October like, "Shit, how am I gonna get all this done?" Yeah. Fantastic, glad they arrived. They arrived, and they were very, very popular. We're out of hats, not a problem at all. Just remember us in dispatches when when you restock. That's what we like. Love the cold weather. Yeah, as I say, I don't I'd rather be warm than cold. But I'd rather wear cold weather clothing than warm weather. I don't look particularly good in a T-shirt, don't look particularly good in shorts, but I look pretty damn special in a big overcoat and a hat, at least in my head. Anyway, people, should we crack on? I think we probably should, because we are like a quarter of an hour into a show and we've done absolutely nothing so far. So we're gonna do a double whammy from Caterpillar. We're going to start with one of their adverts, and then we're going to talk about what they have planned for the next 100 years. Here we go. So, as you're aware, we are currently celebrating, well, I think Caterpillar, are currently celebrating their 100th anniversary, but they're already looking ahead to what happens next, the next 100 years. And they've got a video for it. So, have a look.
It starts with a spark that inspires possibilities, a spark that ignites progress. For a century, Caterpillar has been that spark, powering progress across roads, cities, industries, and economies. Together, we've built the foundation of the modern world. But as the world accelerates at an exponential pace, our customers face new challenges every day. Understanding their needs fuels our purpose. We build a better, more sustainable world. To do that, we must listen, develop, and deliver tailored products and services that drive real outcomes. And those outcomes are just the beginning, because sparking transformation means more than building equipment. It's getting closer to our customers without losing focus on creating quality products. It's leading the industry with differentiated digital and technology solutions and embracing new ways of working to accelerate innovation. Ultimately, it's about solving our customers' toughest challenges, because the future demands it. We've honored our first 100 years and the strength of the legacy that propels us forward. This is our moment, with technology at the forefront, customers at the center, and our people leading the way. The future belongs to us. Tomorrow takes courage. Tomorrow takes commitment and a spark to ignite it. Tomorrow takes Caterpillar.
You can't predict the future, and 100 years is a long way off. Would anyone be surprised if Caterpillar was still market leader by then? I mean, I won't be there to check, but it wouldn't surprise me one bit. We're talking teeth. Bucket teeth, not human teeth. We're talking, or donkey teeth, or any other type of teeth. We're going to be talking teeth in just a moment with Komatsu after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
We get ourselves awfully caught up in things like engine power and digging power and all that sort of thing. A lot of it comes down to the ground engaging tools that are used, including the teeth on a bucket, like this.
So since having the K Prime kits fitted to our PC490 from the last 3 years, they're lasting 2.5 times longer than the K-Maxes that we previously had. Through the years of 2022 to 23, we got through 14 sets of K-Max teeth, and in the years of 23 to 24, we went through 8 sets of K Prime teeth. They are a little bit more expensive, but cost-effective wise over the amount that we brought, it has worked out very well for us. They work very efficiently. They dig and they rip at the same time, and they are a very good tooth and would recommend them to anyone.
Wish my teeth had lasted quite as long. Yeah, those are K-Prime teeth from Komatsu. We've got Jim Turner saying, thankfully, no lull for him. Our lot keep me going constantly. And he also says, it's about time, he reckons, about time the dozer was totally rethought. Now is exactly the right time to do it. Caterpillar would be the ideal firm to do it. You'd have to say with the R&D budget they have and with their experience in dozers, you'd say that they would be the best company for it. I wonder also, though, if that cuts both ways. If you've been doing dozers for a century, how easy is it to go back and say, let us start afresh, let us create a dozer for the modern world? I wonder how easy that would be. You've got like a legacy mindset, haven't you? I did find it interesting, although I'm yet to see one actually in the wild. When Dresster did their dozer, was it the Balmer before last or Conexpo before last? It was. It's like 5-6 years ago, and they put the operator in the middle rather than off to one side. He put him in the middle. That was a start. That was a start. I don't think it completely solved everything, but it did kind of make a move in the right direction. No, not really seen much else apart from that. All variations on a theme, I would say. Maybe we do need to see more of that. Yes, it is the Gary Major dozer. Yeah, Gary was very, very, very instrumental in that design. So, do you think about hindsight bias? Is it rife in construction? Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's rife in society. Hindsight bias is basically looking back and saying, "Ah, yes, I saw that coming," that kind of thing. I remember on the day after Didcot happened, when I was up at Didcot itself, and the number of sort of local people that were, keen to get their 15 seconds of fame on the TV. Oh yes, I've watched that demolition from a distance, and it was quite clearly an accident waiting to happen. If you were that certain, should you not have reported it? Are you a structural engineer? Are you a demolition engineer? How did you know this? It's a nonsense, in absolute truth. That's my feeling. My idea, put the operator in an even better position. Off the machine entirely? Don't worry so much about dozers, to be perfectly honest, although they are very, very, very good remotely operated and autonomously operated. Be interested to see what you say about that. Dan saying, I've been warning here of an accident waiting to happen, and it did, but again, no one listened. I wonder, and I'm just literally playing this out in my mind here, Dan, and I've literally just seen your comment here. I wonder about that. Just trying to get my thoughts in and my ducks in a row here. So imagine you are on a site, demolition, construction, waste, quarry, mine, doesn't matter. You're on a site and you see some sort of practice that is quite clearly dangerous, unsafe, potentially hazardous or deadly. You go to your site supervisor, site manager, whatever it might be, and say you kind of need to be aware of that thing that's happening over there because that could be. And then a week later, a month later, a year later, that accident that you kind of foresaw actually happens. At that point, you're in the realm of he said, she said. You could actually stand there and say, well, I did predict that, but you've got no proof. And the site supervisor or site manager that did nothing to negate that issue has got the defensive. He didn't say that. He never told me a thing. Is there, I wonder, a way of actually logging that in a dated and a secure way? So if in the unfortunate event of an accident happening, you can point to it and say, look, on the 5th of November 2025, I told them, look, I can show you, I told them exactly what my concerns are. And now we've got to go on his way to the hospital, and I told you. Not only am I completely exonerated myself, but now it's very clear that you were negligent because you chose not to listen to what I said. Jim Turner says, that's why you always text or email. Good point. No, we've done that one. Yes. So yes, if you do have concerns, I would strongly recommend that you put them in writing in an electronic format, because that will never go away. They can deny reading it, although you do get delivered, and I mean, WhatsApp is a perfect example. You know, you'll get a little tick that says it's been read. There you are. It's been read. If they chose to do nothing with it, as I say, you're in the clear. Their arse is in a sling. Not good, not right, but at least you're covered. I've been talking about the Blade Runner all morning. And I don't mean the Harrison Ford one. I don't even mean the Ryan Gosling one. I mean the Kabelko one. I'm going to show it to you.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Yeah, I've been flagging it up all morning. This is the Blade Runner. I need to apologise to Andy Thornton. I don't know what it is about these the broadcasting system that I use. I've got an equaliser on this that should set the level of all of the audio to one constant level, and every once in a while, one video just seems to freak it out. But that was loud anyway. Yes, but yeah, there is the Blade Runner, a damn good excavator, and a pretty damn good dozer as well. We've got one more film to show you after Our Lady with the Merch.
Merry Christmas and happy holidays, everyone.
You can find a link to the merch store in the chat. I'm not going to tell you any more about it. It's entirely up to you whether you choose to buy anything or not. Anyway, final film of the day features my mate Ryan Priestley and the gang over at Priestley Demolition in Canada. And this is a bit of stadium demolition. They do everything just so well.
a very old building, so they're going to build a new structure in the 9 bays that we're removing so that it'll be state-of-the-art, more efficient. Our intent is to be done by the end of August with the demolition.
Fair play to Priestley, and working away from home as well, all the way from Canada, all the way down to Memphis. Fair play to him. Jim Turner's just said, just think how long blades have been used on 360s, and still everyone is missing a trick. Has so much more potential to make machines do a lot more jobs, save another man and machine. How often do you see a blade on an excavator used purely, particularly a duck, you see it used purely as a stabilizer? Drop the blade, you've got a stable base. It can do so much more than that. Even I know that, and I'm terrible behind the levers. Anyway, that's about it for the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second. Yes, which is similar to a second, but slightly longer. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon. Tomorrow would be good. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back immediately after this. There was a time, not all that long ago, when people were dying quietly, not from accidents or old age, but from the very system that was meant to save them. Thousands of people were infected with hepatitis and HIV through contaminated blood transfusions, and many of them were children. The government said it was safe. Doctors said it was fine. Everyone said the risks were tiny, manageable, and acceptable. And they said that right up until the funeral started. And by then, it was too late. The damage had been done, drip by drip. Disasters don't always happen in explosions or collapses. Some of them unfold more slowly, more quietly. And if you think that kind of thing couldn't happen in demolition or construction, you're kidding yourself. We've got our own versions of contaminated blood. Ours just looks like dust or fumes or vibration. It sounds like the constant hammer of a brake raw, that cough that never quite goes away. It feels like pins and needles in your fingers that you ignore because you've got another shift tomorrow. If a man falls from a scaffold or gets hit by falling debris, everyone knows what to do. Stop the job, call it in. Investigation, statements, finger pointing, lessons learned. You can see it. You can measure it. There's a body, a name, a date, and a cause. But when a man starts struggling for breath 20 years later, when his hands go numb from vibration, or when mesothelioma comes knocking, there is no moment, no witness, no drama. Just a man wondering how the hell it came to this, and a family wondering, what now? That's the thing about occupational disease. It's never today's problem. It's the credit card of workplace harm. When you pay cash, you feel it right there and right then. The money's gone and the pain's immediate. When you tap a card, you don't feel it at all. It's just a number, a promise that you'll deal with later. And that's exactly how we treat the risks that don't hurt now. We breathe the dust. We tolerate the vibration. We ignore the ringing in our ears. We tell ourselves it's fine because there's no blood, no sirens, no paperwork. but that bill always comes due. It might take 10 years, it might take 30, but sooner or later, the interest piles up in hospital visits, inhalers, numb fingers, oxygen tanks, and funerals. And by the time you realise how much it's cost, there's no way to pay it back. As an industry, we obsess over accidents because they're dramatic, recordable, measurable. They look bad in the stats and on the news. But the slow killers, the stuff that creeps in unseen, that's easy to ignore. It doesn't stop a job halfway through or delay a handover. And here's the ugly truth. When someone's killed by negligence today, we know exactly who's to blame. The evidence is there. The paperwork's fresh. Those involved are still in the office. But when it's hand, arm vibration or silicosis or COPD, when that hits in 20 years' time, who takes the fall? The company's gone bust. The alien worker was employed by multiple firms over the years. The foreman's retired. The files are in a landfill. The passage of time is the employer's get out of jail free card. Every generation has its blind spot. Lead paint, coal dust, contaminated blood, asbestos. And every generation says the same. We didn't know. But we do know. We've seen what dust does. We've seen men's hand turn white. We've seen men's hands turn white from vibration. We've seen too many old faces fade too early. We just convince ourselves it's someone else's problem. The next firm, the next shift, the next guy down the chain. The pain has been outsourced to the future. One day soon, we're going to have a whole generation of workers who can't breathe, can't grip, can't hear, and can't work. They won't show up in any accident report. They won't be remembered in memorial posts, but they'll be paying the bill for shortcuts we're taking today. And make no mistake, the bill is already in the post. It's sitting there, collecting interest, waiting for the next wave of men and women who thought they got away with it. Anyone like to chime in on all of that? I'd love to hear from you. I do need to go back to the chat because just as I was about to start that, Chris Ford said something that I completely missed. He says, there we are. Nice mixed fleet of plant. Didn't reckon much to the dust suppression. I think you're talking about Priestly Demolition. I have to give that a bit of a rewatch. I thought the dust suppression was okay, but I wasn't really. I'm trying to write an article in the background. That's how much work I've got on. The Blade Runner is better than most, but there's a lot more that can easily be used to. I just need the backing from a manufacturer. Manufacturers of the world, meet Jim. Chris says, Jim, the problem with having Swiss Army knife of construction machines is always someone who wants you to do something the machine isn't built for. Yeah, and I do wonder. I mean, in the manufacturer's defense, I know Jim gets very frustrated about the fact that he's got a head full of solutions, many to current problems, many to problems nobody's even thought of yet. I have enormous respect for him for that. But imagine if you're let's say you're a Caterpillar, you've got probably 1 million plus customers around the world. I reckon if you got them all in one room, admittedly it would be a big room, but if you got them all in one room and said, we are going to build a new excavator or dozer or wheel loader or whatever it might be, we'd like your input. I reckon you'd probably get 1 million different answers. There would, in the grand sort of Venn diagram of things, I'm sure there would be a sort of a coming together of certain factors. But I reckon you ask 1 million people, you get 1 million answers. Chris Ford says, a bit like the forks on a 3CX, great for a lot of things. Then you get the site manager who wants you to move a canch. Is that right? A canch of bricks. Then man's they're chipped. Then moans they're chipped. That makes more sense. Yeah, thank you. I thought you'd gone off into a completely different language there for a moment, Chris. Jim says, the machine is built for anything it can do safely and without damaging the machine. All true. All true. Not the same with human beings as my morning monologue. we are. It's a weird one. We know, and I don't know the answer to this, but we know things like exposure to asbestos. is both harmful and potentially deadly. And yet we have an industry that does precisely that. As I say, I don't know what the alternative is, but in this day and age, the fact that we haven't found some way to do that and keeping men and women out of harm's way strikes me as, if not overdue, then certainly wrong. I would say the same about, we had a guest on here a while back talking about chromium. Exposure to chromium, very, very harmful. We know that, and yet we are still doing it. We have some buildings you find anthrax, PCBs, and all those kind of things, and yet we are exposing people to that. And that get out of jail free card is one that really bothers me. It really does bother me. Things like, asbestosis, mesothelioma. If you contract that in 10, 20, 30 years' time, and you get yourself a brief, and the brief says, okay, well, who did you work for? Where do you think you got this? Or here's my CV. Over the course of the past 30 years, I've worked for 70 different companies on 157 different sites, all of which may have contained the one fibre of asbestos that has left me unable to breathe. So almost impossible to trace that way. And then ultimately, the defence of the employers, well, can you prove it happened on one of my sites? We had measures in place. Can you prove it was on one of our sites? That's assuming the company still exists. They don't all. I was talking to somebody just yesterday, actually, who's facing a bit of a lawsuit. Accident happened with a demolition company. Demolition company's not around anymore. So what happens next? Andy Thornton says, responsibility means the ability to respond. Responsibility. This unfortunately means we have to be the one looking out for our own health at work and those around us. The answer lies at the coalface. I do think we should have greater levels of personal responsibility in this industry. I 100% agree with that. But to a large degree, you are, as an employee, you are partly under the duty of care of your employer, but you're also trusting their judgment. For example, I spoke to a demolition company a while back, a good couple of years ago. They'd won a job. They had been given an asbestos report, and the asbestos report said, we found some asbestos in this room, in that room. It's been removed. There is none left. Crack on. The demolition company went into the building, and literally a day or two in, somebody lifted a roof tile, a ceiling tile rather, asbestos. That demolition company was then fined for having released asbestos. Asbestos they'd been told wasn't there. But also, the person that had gone up the ladder to move that ceiling tile potentially was exposed to potentially deadly asbestos. He'd been told categorically by his employer, who had been told categorically by an asbestos survey company, you're okay, you're good to go, there's nothing there to worry about. But there was. How many? I've been writing a lot recently about large panel system buildings like Ronan Point that collapsed back in the 60s in London. And it was revealed in the post-mortem of that building that some of the cement had been replaced by rolled up newspapers. The 60s was a funny time, and it was, before some building regs, and stuff happened. But the chances are, if you'd been a demolition company working on that, you would have been told, well, it's a large panel system building, you need to be careful, but everything else is hunky-dory. At no point has anyone said to you, you really need to be really, really careful on this, because we know for a fact that some of the cement has been replaced by newspapers. We know that part of the building was built on a Friday afternoon when the lads were all going down the pub. So, half the cement that they should have been using has gone. Or yeah, it was a funny old year that was. We were sending a lot of our steel overseas, so we were using pretty shitty leftover bits and stuff like that. So the building is probably not as strong as it should have been. Does anyone ever mention that? I think we'll be better off going forward when you start to see the impact of BIM. Where we've got an absolute paper trail, electronic paper trail of exactly what went into a building and where how it was fixed, where it was fixed, how it was joined together, how it was erected, and that will make life easier. But as it stands at the moment, the average demolition contractor going into a lot of their demolition jobs, they are working 100% blind. You can have a look at it, you can use your best judgment, but there are no drawings. There is no paper trail. You're literally going with gut feel and experience. 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, gut feel and experience will be absolutely fine. But it's that 1 time out of 100 that is the problem. That's when buildings go sideways. That's when asbestos is revealed. That's when chromium is released. That's when people are exposed to PCBs. And ultimately, that's not. I don't believe that to be the fault of the demolition contractor. There's only so much you can do in advance of actually starting work, plus the fact that you are up against the clock. If as part of bearing in mind the way that demolition works, and construction's no different, but bearing in mind the way that demolition works, if you've got a tower block, for example, and you were given, rather than a month to put it on the floor, you were given 3 months. So you could go in, you could do some non-destructive testing to make sure all the nasties, the potential nasties that you might have been uncovered. You could then do a nice slow process on the soft strip, making sure all of the asbestos is gone, not just most of it. All of the nasties are tucked away and sent off to landfill to be processed properly, and then you set about the demolition. What actually happens is you allow a month, and they tell you you've got to be done and dusted in 2 weeks. There is no time for testing. There is no time for constant analysis. You have to go with gut feel. I'm going to say good morning to Peter McKenna. Another call at 11. Hope everyone is well. Yes, I can't remember what it was you said you were in the running for, but Peter is potentially was it an icon of the HGV industry or something like that? He's been nominated for, quite rightly so. Congratulations, Peter. Jim says that's why apprenticeships and passed on knowledge is so important in our industry. It is. It is. 100%. Because again, if you were to try and do demolition from a textbook would be largely ideal world scenario. The building looks like this, it will do this. When you do that, that will happen. And then when you have a look in there, that will be revealed. And which is fine. That sounds absolutely fantastic on paper. But what if it doesn't? And you can only get that through experience or learned or inherited experience, as Jim rightly said. Say good morning to somebody called Machinery Hunters. Machinery Hunters over on Instagram. I wonder what Machinery Hunters do. I mean, there's a bit of me that thinks that they go and find machines for other people. That would make a good, but also Machinery Hunters. Have they got dozers and excavators roaming in the wild and you have to go out and shoot them? Maybe. I've watched too much sci-fi, but Machinery Hunters, good morning to you. Whereabouts are you guys? Love to hear from you. I'll tell you what, a quick shifty, see if I can find them. Just for my own peace of mind. Machinery Hunters, they're over in Mexico. I don't know what time it is in Mexico, but let me think. Is it Buenos Dias? Buenos Dias, Machinery Hunters. I think that's right. Not sure. Yeah, because Bom Dia is Portuguese, isn't it? Buenos Dias. Peter McKenna is a lorry legend. Would be fitting for me anyway, because he is a legend. Yes, Peter, I have nothing against your left leg. Unfortunately, neither do you. We know the jokes. Yes, Peter is bereft of a leg. So yes, and well done on the humour there. Do like that. Jim Turner says, therefore, apprenticeships should actually take a lot longer. Yeah, I mean, I don't. I must admit, I've not had a huge amount of exposure to apprenticeships for quite some time. Is there a kind of a tiered system with apprenticeships these days? Is that how it works? You know, if you did, I don't know how. Let's say an apprenticeship lasts for a year. Could you extend it to 2 or possibly 3 years, but increase their income and their wages to reflect the fact that they now know more or whatever it might be? I'd like to see that. Anywho, people, oh, hang on a minute. Right leg and foot. Oh, okay. I had a 50-50 shot. I took a guess. I went wrong. Well, that's why I never win the lottery, to be perfectly honest with you. I take a shot, nothing good comes of it. Anyway, people, that's going to do us. I do need to go and finish both of these bloody publications. Do you ever regret starting a thing? I've got a publication I'm doing at the moment, which, funnily enough, is about large panel system buildings, which I've just mentioned, and I thought it would be a good idea to do it. I remember as a kid when my mum would, about once every 6 months, my mum would get the ump about the fact that my bedroom was such an absolute pigsty. So I'd take umbrage, and I would literally go into my bedroom and I would pull everything, all my clothes, my toys, my games, everything into a big heap in the middle of the room, and I would slowly start either throwing stuff away or putting it back neatly. I'd sometimes move the bed around. I had a chair in there that would go somewhere else. I'd do all of those things. And what started out as tidying your room up became me spending an entire weekend doing it. I've got that right now with this large panel system building publication. I'll do it. It'll be fine. And now I'm 6 weeks into the writing of it. I can see the end. I can't touch it, but I can see the end. But man alive, yeah. Bye. I'll catch you on the flip side. Yeah, you too, Peter. And whatever comes, I know you've only been nominated at this point, but whatever happens, know this: as far as we're concerned, you're already a legend in your own lunchtime. People, go and have a fantastic day, would you? Think of me beating a keyboard while you're supping your morning coffee. Have a great day, lads, says Dan. Yep, that's a perfectly good message to end on. All of you that won prizes over the last week should be receiving them either today or tomorrow, because I had a big clear out yesterday. All of that has gone, done and dusted. I can now breathe in this office. I've got a bit more room to spare, a bit more tidying up to do. But like I say, I don't want to start that because I'll end up doing that the entire day. So everybody, I'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. for yet more of the same. If you fancy a bit of that, please join us if you possibly can. Until then, everybody, have a good day. And look out for that dust and the vibration and the asbestos and anything else that might come back to bite you on the arse in 20 years' time.